I let my ex-boyfriend give a surprise toast at our wedding. His reaction made guests uncomfortable. I'm still trying to process everything that happened 3 weeks ago. My wedding turned into a huge disaster for me. I didn't think that an armless toast would trigger my husband. It was just a toast anyone would give on a special occasion like that. I didn't see the reason why mine had to turn out to be the thing that broke my relationship with my husband. Hi Redditors, my name is Mia. I am 29 years old. The name of my soon-to-be ex-husband is Herman, and he is 31 years old. Yes, Herman would soon be my ex in less than a few weeks. He made it clear he wouldn't want to have anything to do with me any longer. I never would have imagined that Herman and I would get to a point where we will go our separate ways. Most especially when it hasn't been up to weeks or months, not to even talk of a year, that we tied the knot together. Getting a divorce was never an option. I never had imagined it. Why I wouldn't blame Herman entirely is because his anger is somehow justified. My ex-boyfriend Ryan was the same guy I assured Herman that I wasn't seeing again. I told him that Ryan and I weren't in contact any longer after Herman and I started dating. Of course Herman knew about Ryan because I told him everything he needed to know. Ryan was the last guy I dated before I met Herman. Ryan and I broke up on mutual terms, and it didn't take long before I could get over him. Yes, I moved on from him and didn't let the breakup weigh me down during that period. Ryan and I loved each other so much. We dated for 5 years before we broke up with each other. At that time, we both were in college. Things weren't going well in the relationship. I can't really remember what exactly was the problem that made us break up with each other. One thing I know is that we both weren't feeling the relationship any longer at that time. It got to a point where Ryan and I joked about breaking up with each other anytime we had a misunderstanding. In fact, we broke up several times during that period, but we ended up coming back together and settled things up. Sometimes we break up in the morning over a silly fight and come back together again in the evening. It doesn't make any sense, right? I know, guys, but that was how our relationship was at that time. Ryan made my college days fun, and I won't even lie about that. It was all thanks to him that I was able to make friends. I was never the type that liked making friends or getting close to people, but being around Ryan was so much fun and lively. In fact, most of the friends I have now are mostly Ryan's friends. I got close to them through Ryan because I was Ryan's girlfriend, and they respected me so much then. Because of how jovial and friendly Ryan was, he had lots of friends, and they all loved and respected him. When Ryan and I started dating back then, it felt like I was surrounded with a whole community. They were so welcoming and friendly, just as Ryan. Ryan wasn't a bad company anyway. He was intelligent back then in college and never missed any of his classes, unless otherwise. We both studied together with his friends. It was a very good experience for me. I honestly enjoyed what Ryan and I both shared together when we were together. Although, along the line, things turned south, and the relationship wasn't as it used to be when we first started. Maybe it was because we both were used to each other's company and needed a breathing space because it felt like Ryan and I were choked up with the relationship. We might have as well done that in the wrong way because we both loved each other very much. That's why we kept breaking up and getting back together. None of us could let go of the other because we were so much into each other then. The breaking up and coming back together after a few hours became a regular thing in the relationship. It became boring and tiring for me back then. It was evident that we couldn't let go of each other, but things weren't how it used to be between us. I got tired and I wanted to end the whole thing because it wasn't helping either of us then. So one day I proposed for us to end the whole back and forth, breaking up and getting back together after a few hours of a thing, because it wasn't actually making any sense. Ryan also agreed to it, and we both ended the relationship for good. I didn't expect him to call me back or text me after that day, because my mind was already made up at that time. Ryan, on the other hand, didn't even call or text. That went on for a week, and that was when I knew that the breakup at that time was real. I know it sounds crazy to you guys right now, but honestly, as crazy as it may sound, that was how Ryan and I ended our relationship. We broke up before we graduated from college. I won't lie, guys. It wasn't that easy for me because we kept bumping into each other. But then I accepted the whole crazy situation and moved on. After graduation, I lost contact with most of the friends I made through Ryan. Ryan also wasn't left out. I traveled out of state to further my education, and that was when I met Herman, my soon-to-be ex-husband. I was running a 2-year course out of state, and I got to meet Herman. Guys, Herman is a smart, intelligent, and good-looking guy. Not just that, he's also hardworking and rich. I got to meet Herman at one of our social events. All the special guests that were to address us that day were smart-looking, and Herman was the most handsome of them. I was one of those ladies that couldn't stop staring at him. I also made sure to get a picture with him before the end of the event. I got back home that day, and I couldn't stop thinking about Herman. I kept staring at the pictures we took that day. I didn't know how to reach out to him or get to talk to him for the second time. From the way he spoke at the event, I instantly liked him. I didn't even know what got into me that period. I kept daydreaming about Herman all through that day. All efforts to reach out to him were in vain. I tried searching him up on social media but couldn't get through to him. I spent the rest of the night searching for Herman's social media handle but didn't find it. Not until 2 days later, when I had told my close friends, Sasha and Ella, about Herman and how I had fallen in love with him but didn't know how to get through to him. My friends teased me about staying up all night looking for a stranger's profile, which I found funny anyway. It sounded crazy to me also at that time. Anyways, guys, after a few teasing from my friends, Ella said that she knew someone that has direct contact with Herman. Guys, I was very excited at that moment. I asked who it was, and she directed me to the person. Apparently, the person who Ella was talking about was Gina, Herman's cousin. We both were running the same course together at that time. Up to that moment, I had never noticed Gina, not to even have had a conversation with her. Not like we had any misunderstandings, guys, or something. I didn't mind our first conversation being about a guy. You all wouldn't blame me entirely. I was already in love and was going crazy about it. So guys, long story short, I met up with Gina. But guess what, guys? Gina was a very sweet person to me. I told her about how I was crazily in love with her cousin, and she didn't hesitate to give me Herman's contact. I was very happy that she wasn't as difficult as I had thought. I thought Gina was going to play hard to get since her cousin was the most talked about after the event. I was happy that she proved me wrong. So guys, I got through to Herman that day. I won't even lie or not say it was very awkward. I was bent on getting Herman's number, and after getting it, I became confused on how to approach him on the phone. I stared at my phone for a few minutes, thinking whether to make a call or not. Luckily for me, Gina gave me Herman's email, and that was how I was able to get to him. I emailed him, and within a few minutes he replied back. It was very awkward, like I said, but the conversation went well. So guys, Herman and I emailed each other for 2 days before he asked me to reach out to him through his social media handle. It was a private account, and there wasn't a way I would have gotten to know that was his account. It was then I realized why I couldn't find him on social media. We communicated online, and the conversations were great. During that time, I never told Herman how I got his email. Yes, he asked me numerous times about it, but I told him to consider me as a secret admirer who would do anything to get to talk to her crush. Of course, Herman would laugh at that. I had his contact, but he wasn't aware that I did, because I didn't have the courage to call him. I was scared of Herman hanging up on me because I didn't know how to introduce myself. But luckily for me, the email worked and we got talking. Guys, it's all thanks to Gina that I was able to talk to someone like Herman and even stand with him at any event when we were still dating. The places Herman had been to casually was one of my dream places. I got to go there because of Herman. I enjoyed every bit of the relationship because it was peaceful. I didn't experience that with Ryan. Though Ryan and I had a beautiful relationship, it wasn't like that of the one Herman and I had. I didn't love Herman because of his money or status. I loved him because of how handsome and smart-looking he was when I first saw my eyes on him. I knew immediately that he was the perfect guy for me. He was everything that I wanted in a man at that time. Getting to know him made me love him even more because he was fun to be with. Nice and humble, despite he's rich. If we were still together, I'm sure he would make not just a good husband, but a father as well. He's the type of man that I would like to be the father of my kids. So guys, Herman and I met after a few weeks of chatting online. It took that long because he wasn't stable in town. He went on lots of business trips, and I also got caught up with a lot of work in the program I was running at that time. After a few weeks, we met, and Herman told me how he had gotten to like me and would like us to be in a relationship. He asked me to be his girlfriend, and I said yes to him. It was when we started dating that I opened up to Herman how I got his email, and we laughed over it. We promised ourselves not to keep secrets from each other, and so I thought of telling him even though it wasn't much of a big deal. So guys, the relationship went on well. Like I had said earlier, it was my best relationship. Ryan and Herman were the two guys that I had ever dated. I loved what Herman and I had more than what I had with Ryan. Yes, Ryan made my college days fun, but it wasn't compared to how I felt with Herman. Besides that, Herman really knew how to spoil me with lots of gifts. Not only that, we also went on vacations together. I was happy at that time because I was living my dream life effortlessly. Herman's family, on the other hand, were like the best people on earth. They accepted me the first day Herman introduced me to them. I was never treated like a guest or visitor. In fact, guys, the kind of baby girls treatment I received from them made me even forget that I was Herman's girlfriend. They treated me like a daughter. I never took the love and care they had shown to me for granted. It's so heartbreaking to see that everything turned out this way. I wish I could find a way to fix this. Herman is not the only one that's angry with me at the moment. His family also are not happy with how things turned out. They didn't expect that from me. My ex-boyfriend coming to my wedding was a total turnoff, not to even think of him having the audacity to give me a surprise toast at my own wedding. My husband is a very reputable person, and so is his family, and they didn't want their daughter-in-law, which is me, to be involved in such a messy situation. At this point, I have not only disappointed them, but myself and family also. I'm honestly not happy with what has happened, and it's painful knowing that there's no one that would stand by me through this phase. I really wish Herman could come around and get back together with him. I really missed him. There's no doubt about that. I don't know how much longer he would want to stay away from me and now want to talk to me. We were like best friends, and it's so hard to live without him. I have been fond of him, and it's not easy for me at this moment. It feels like a part of me is missing, and I need to fund it as soon as possible. I have tried everything I could think of to make him forgive me, but none has turned out well. Not even begging Herman alone, but also his family too. I really wish they could forgive me and help me talk to Herman. Maybe that would ease the whole situation for me. I believe that his family would be able to talk to him, and he would reconsider his decision about us. But since the family is annoyed with me, I don't see that being possible. I really missed how Herman and I usually discuss random things and laugh over the ones that are funny. His jokes and funny words he usually says to crack me up. Herman really knew how to lighten my mood effortlessly. I didn't even know how he does that without even trying hard. I'm used to all of those funny aspects of Herman that I can't really cope without him. This past weekend, a few weeks have really been challenging for me because I haven't seen or been with Herman. It feels like my whole world revolves around him. Sometimes I regretted even getting married to Herman. I wish that we had continued dating. If we didn't get married, maybe we would have still been together by now, because our wedding was what tore us apart. If we had skipped that, we wouldn't have gotten to this point where Herman doesn't even want to talk to me or tell me not to get any closer with him again. It's heartbreaking hearing that from the love of your life. Guys, there's actually no words to quantify how that statement made me feel, or how I'm feeling right now writing this. I don't know if Herman even misses me as much as I have missed him. Every day I keep thinking about him and wanting to know how his day was and hear him talk to me about it like he usually does. Now I don't have anyone that we could do all of those things together anymore. This is why it is not really ideal to make someone your whole happiness. Just take a look at these guys. I don't know how to be happy after breaking my near-perfect relationship. Everything that has happened has been taking a toll on me lately. I really don't know what to do other than to keep blaming myself. I have been taking it hard on myself, and it's making me lose my mind at this point. I have considered going for therapeutic sessions, but I don't know if that's what I need right now. I really want to fix this and get back to my husband. It is too early to get a divorce right now. Herman and I have only dated for 3 years. Those 3 years have been the best years of my life so far. Losing what makes me happy every day at this point of my life doesn't feel right. Like I said earlier, I don't know how I'm going to live without Herman. Honestly, guys, this feels like a dream to me right now. All of the things that have happened are no one else's fault but mine. I shouldn't have even thought about it in the first place. I told you guys earlier that Herman and I decided not to keep secrets from each other, right? We also talked about our past relationships with each other, not for anything serious. Herman told me how his last relationship before ours started and how it ended. I also told him about mine. As crazy mine sounded, Herman was shocked to hear how Ryan and I finally broke up. I assured Herman that I wasn't in touch with Ryan at that period, that we had broken up for good. I also told Herman lots of things about Ryan, and Herman felt like I still had feelings for him, which I told him immediately that I didn't. Honestly, I had moved past the relationship even before I got to meet Herman. I told Herman that Ryan and I weren't in contact or even knew where he was at that time. I'm not the type that cheats in relationships because I know how it feels to be cheated on. I respected my relationship with Herman. He was a good guy and doesn't deserve any of that. So guys, I didn't cheat on Herman with any guy, not even Ryan. But something happened between Ryan and I which wasn't supposed to have happened. It wasn't intentional, and I regretted why it happened. In fact, it happened unexpectedly. I honestly didn't expect it that day. Going on, you guys would know what really happened. So guys, after Herman and I dated for 3 years, he proposed to me to be his wife. He told me I was the type of woman he would want to spend his life with and asked me to marry him, which I agreed without any hesitation. I was very happy at that moment because I was getting married to the best man on earth. A few weeks after the proposal, the wedding date was fixed and the preparations started. A lot of people were invited, and I felt like my wedding was going to be a carnival because of Herman's social status. I didn't complain anyway. I loved it back then, knowing that a lot of people were going to grace the occasion. Herman also didn't have a problem with me inviting as many guests as I wanted. He told me to do whatever pleases me. At that time, I kept on inviting lots of people, friends that I hadn't talked to since college and some of my high school friends. The thought of getting married made me extremely happy. I didn't know how to even express myself. Honestly, guys, I didn't know what got into me that made me that happy, though. I was just too extremely happy. So guys, according to the date Herman and I fixed, our wedding was to come up 3 months after the proposal. Guys, for a couple that had dated together for 3 years, do you guys think that was too fast for us to get married? I honestly didn't feel so at that time. In fact, not even now, because I loved Herman so much, and I would have even gotten married to him earlier than that, though. So guys, one day, just as I was scrolling through social media, I came across a post. It was a familiar picture, and I recognized it immediately. Guys, it was my ex-boyfriend Ryan who had made that post. At that time, I didn't know any of his social media handles. The one I knew was different from the one I came across that day. It was at that time I discovered that he had a new social media account. I wouldn't lie, guys, I liked the pictures he had uploaded on his page. Instantly, I thought to drop down a comment, but then I thought about it again, and then decided to drop the comment direct message instead. I honestly didn't have any intention to get back with him. The message I wanted to send to him was just a harmless one. So guys, I messaged Ryan about the pictures he uploaded and told him how good-looking he was. Ryan replied almost immediately with a heart emoji. From there, he went straight to ask me how I had been, to which I responded. Long story short, Ryan and I chatted that day. It wasn't any serious conversation anyway. It was more like catching up with something after a long time. Maybe I shouldn't have messaged him in the first place? Thinking about it right now, I should have just scrolled past the post and did like I knew nothing about it, because it was from that harmless conversation that made me start what was going to end in a disaster. In the heat of the moment when Ryan and I were chatting with each other, he started flirting with me again. But I didn't give in to any of his words. Immediately, I told him that I would be getting married in less than a few weeks at that time. He didn't believe me and thought that I was pulling up with some sort of prank or something. It wasn't when I sent him the invite that he realized that I wasn't actually pranking him. I told him that he was invited and could come for the wedding. He told me he wouldn't mind coming since I had invited him. At that moment, I wouldn't say I was happy that Ryan was going to come to the wedding, but I felt a sense of joy then. I invited Ryan on the basis that we had known each other. I wasn't invited because he was my ex-boyfriend. Or guys, is it wrong to invite an estranged partner to a wedding? I want to know if what I did was wrong. After that conversation with Ryan that day, we kept on chatting, but not frequently. We chatted once every 2 days. At my own end, I didn't feel anything for Ryan. I had Herman that I was getting married to, which was enough for me, but Ryan, on the other hand, wouldn't let me be. He kept telling me how he had missed me and wanted us to meet. I kept turning down his request and told him to move on like I had done, but he wouldn't even listen. After much persuasion from his end, I thought about giving him a chance for us to meet, but only for a few minutes, which he agreed to. At that time, I was very much busy with the wedding preparations, but I had to fix out time for Ryan and I to meet. I wasn't expecting anything from the meeting. Like I said earlier, I didn't feel anything for him when we got in touch after 5 years of being apart. So guys, I met up with Ryan like we had planned to. Honestly guys, the meeting was one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made. I shouldn't have gone to meet up with him in the first place. We had a glass of wine and chatted for a few minutes. I was very anxious at that moment. I honestly didn't know why I felt that way. Ryan and I ended up spending 30 minutes at that place. When it was time for me to leave, Ryan pulled me closer to him and kissed me on my lips for a few seconds. I didn't know how it happened, but it came to me as a shock. I, on the other hand, couldn't resist the kiss, and I kissed him back. Guys, trust me, it was just a brief kiss. After a few seconds, I got myself back and pulled away immediately. I took my bag and car keys and ran out of the place. On my way back home, I couldn't help but keep thinking about everything that happened. I couldn't imagine that I kissed Ryan. It wasn't my intention to do that. It came off as a shock for me. Like I said earlier, I'm never the type that likes to cheat. I felt like telling Herman that day, but I was scared about how he was going to react. It was a few weeks to our wedding at that time, and I didn't want us to have any issue before the big day. I loved how everything was going smoothly before I met up with Ryan. I regretted that meeting because it came back to haunt me. Yes, guys, it did. Maybe if I had opened up to Herman, things have escalated like this. That was the mistake I made, and I wish I could make things right again. But unfortunately, I can't, and it hurts me so much. So guys, after that day, I texted Ryan and told him not to try such with me again, because I was getting married in a few weeks and wouldn't cheat on my fiancé. I also told him to forget about the kiss and pretended like nothing happened between us. And I told him that he could still come for the wedding if he wished. After that message, Ryan and I didn't talk before the wedding. I was happy that he didn't reply to my text, and I concluded that he might not attend the wedding. I didn't bother about it anyway. All my focus was to make the wedding a success without any drama. But unfortunately for me, that didn't happen. So guys, the day of the wedding came and I felt a sense of relief. A few weeks before the wedding, I was tense because of what happened between Ryan and I. I didn't know why I felt that way though. So guys, on that day I got dressed very early to meet up with the scheduled time. I didn't want to keep my guests waiting even though they all came out for me. Yes, I was the bride and was allowed to take all the time if I had wanted, but I just wanted things to get done really fast. So guys, I got dressed and headed to the venue with my bridesmaids. We got there, and as expected, I walked down the aisle to meet Herman. We were joined by a priest, and everything went on smoothly. After a few minutes, the program was over, and the guests all moved to the reception venue. That was where everything changed for me. It was there Ryan decided to mess things up for me. The reception was going on well. All the guests, including Herman and I, were having the best moments of our lives. Everyone had lots of food to eat and drink. The hall was filled with lots of people, and I was happy that they came all out for Herman and I. While the reception was going on and everyone was busy with one thing or the other, everyone's attention was drawn to the sound of a glass cup. We all turned to the direction, and immediately I recognized who it was. Guys, at that moment, my heart kept beating really fast. I wasn't sure of what Ryan was about to say at that moment. He didn't also tell me anything like he wanted to say a word. We all kept mute to hear what Ryan had to say. No one in the hall except me and a few of my friends knew who Ryan was and what he was to me. After Ryan was sure that he had gotten everyone's attention, he started off by saying he wanted to give a toast to me and dropped the bombshell, his ex-girlfriend. Immediately, Herman turned to me, looking confused. At that moment, I was already anxious. Ryan continued by saying all sorts of silly jokes about when we were still together. He told everyone about our love life and some of the bedroom skills I enjoyed. Like as if that wasn't enough, Ryan went further to tell everyone that he still had feelings for him and wasn't happy that I was getting married to Herman. He also said that we kissed for a few seconds, and that reminded him about our relationship all over again. At that point, the joke wasn't funny anymore. My husband stood up from where he was seated and threw the glass of wine he held at the wall. Everyone, including me, was shocked to see Herman behave that way. We know him to be a very calm person. Herman throwing the glass at the wall didn't stop Ryan from spilling his rubbish. He continued by asking Herman if he could lend me a few minutes that night so he could say goodbye because he missed me so much. Immediately, Herman went over to where Ryan stood and gave him a big slap across the face. I didn't know whether Ryan was drunk that moment that made him behave the way he did. It's only someone that had had so much to drink that could cause an unnecessary scene like that. I was beyond shameful and didn't know how to hide my face. Herman gave Ryan the biggest beating of his life. I felt pity for him, though. But then, I felt pity for myself more because I didn't know how to explain the whole situation to Herman. While Herman was beating Ryan to pulp, the security guards intervened and took Ryan away. That was how Ryan escaped not being hospitalized. I stood there and watched everything and couldn't say anything because I was scared. Everyone in the hall was already gossiping about everything that had happened. I was just too embarrassed. I couldn't imagine that all of these were happening on my wedding day. So guys, after a few minutes, Herman picked up the mic, thanked everyone that were around, and apologized to them about what happened that moment. Herman also mentioned that he was not going to continue with the marriage any longer, and said he would be filing for a divorce because I was not a faithful person. He told them how disappointed he was to find out that I had invited my ex, met up with him, and even had the audacity to kiss him when our wedding was just in a few weeks. I tried going closer to him to tell him that there was a mix-up somewhere, but Herman told me not to dare come close to him because we both would regret what he would do next. Herman asked all the guests to leave because the wedding was over. Everyone started leaving, and before I knew it, the hall was empty. I ran after Herman, but he didn't even turn to look at me for a second. So guys, that was how everything happened at my wedding reception. Herman and I didn't go home as a couple. That was not how I had imagined my wedding to be. It's been 3 weeks already, and I still haven't heard anything from Herman or his family. I haven't been happy since that day. I want to get back with my husband. I really don't like staying far away from Herman. Guys, I would like it if you guys can tell me what to do to get back with Herman and make peace with him. Please, you all shouldn't go too hard on me. I have been hard on myself. Update. Hey guys, I'm back here with an update on my last post. It's been 2 months since I updated you guys, and I'm really sorry for taking that long to give you guys an update. Like I had requested for advice 2 months ago. Some of you guys gave your advice. I really do not take any of them for granted. Though most of you guys were harsh, and some supported Herman for filing for a divorce. Well, I think I deserve that anyway. The nasty comments have been taking a toll on me lately, and I have begun to regret why I brought this case here. None of the advice worked for me. Herman still went on with the filing for the divorce. The divorce was concluded 3 weeks ago. Of course, there was no way I would get any tangible thing from the divorce. Herman is a very influential person, and also from a rich family as well. Getting anything from the divorce was never going to happen. Guys, I have been a mess ever since the divorce. I still can't believe that Herman and I are no longer together even after the divorce. I still feel like all these are nightmares. I really wish it was, and can't wait to wake up from this horrible dream. Ryan succeeded in ruining my life for good. I lost my husband, marriage, and the good family that treated me like their daughter. My family is also very angry at me. Everyone seemed to be in support of Herman. No one is even pretending to stand by me so I wouldn't feel lonely. Guys, this hurts me deeply, and I don't even know how to express my feelings right now. I'm beyond heartbroken. Starting all over wouldn't be that easy for me. I've gotten so used to Herman that I can't let him go. Herman, on the other hand, had moved on with his life like nothing happened. My therapeutic sessions would start a few weeks from now. I hope that would make me forget everything that has happened, because I can't stop thinking about it. I have been hard on myself lately, and I hope I can move on from this as soon as possible. It has been depressing, and is still depressing. I really want to move past this phase quickly.